The main thing that I want to share about the solstice is that we are sitting at the time of the year that brings us to the greatest amount of creativity that we could ever hope to imagine. It is not in the light that everything is revealed. It is important that we eventually begin to recognize that we are the light and we are here to do the revealing. We are that which is to be revealed, and it is in the darkness that we come into contact with the rest of who we are. And so we'll speak a little bit this evening about some of these ideas, and we'll speak a little bit about the bridging of the worlds of our conscious life as we know it, the bridging of the worlds of science and spirituality. And I'm oftentimes invited into scientific communities. I came out of healthcare, and I always speak spiritual speak when I go there. And I get invited to speak into spiritual communities, and I always bring the science into that world. And so a bridging of the languages is what we're here to do. We're here to bridge the languages of the light and the dark. We're here to bridge the worlds of the known and the unknown, because we are the ones that bring forth that which is yet to be seen, yet to be heard. And I'd like at some point this evening to speak with you a little bit about what if it was already true that we had awakened to the truth of who we are? What if it was already upon us and that we were living together as that we were gathered in a setting such as this for the purpose of reminiscing about the good old days, about when we used to think that the linear, logical mind was the only fallback that we could count on. And prior to awakening to the reality that we are made of creative essence itself, we struggled to find logic, and we prayed for the miracle. And if we were to truly step into the wholeness of our being, we would not hold those worlds as separate from one another, and we would recognize that the miracle happens beyond logic. And so as we begin to steward our own creativity, we allow the miracle, the miraculous, to occur with every breath that we take, with every step that we take. We would gather in a space like this and talk about, remember when those other cultures, which happened to end up being the indigenous cultures of our planet, used to pray to the gods of the mountains and the gods of the rivers and celebrate such things as the solstice in some kind of pagan way. We would reminisce about how silly and lost we really were as a culture to ever turn our backs on this deep truth that heaven and earth have been revealing since the beginning of time. We would be here reminiscing about how beautiful the day was when we recognized that we can't do it wrong. We can only do it long. And that we can begin to step straight into our own creative essence and live as we were intended to live, as made of God stuff, as creator. That as we begin to own that, to embody that, we start to have a different conversation. Not about what if, but about here and now. So on my way out here, I was sitting on the plane, and I rarely do this ahead of time. I always operate in real time, just download the conversation and have a weaving of the worlds. And I started writing myself a text. So I sent it to myself. I started writing something, and I'd like to share it with you. Is that okay? All right? So there's some reason that I did this, and some reason, I mean, those of you that have seen me speak, you've probably never seen me read something, right? You didn't even know if I could read, right? And so I just want to share some of these. These are random thoughts that I felt were for you, because I was thinking of you as I was trying to gather my thoughts to come here and land in the most pinnacle of moments that is truly evidenced at this time of year. And I will speak with you about what the solstice is and what it can be for you, starting in this moment and through the days to come that are upon us right now. A most sacred time of the year is here. It is here, these holy days. Every indigenous culture has celebrated this time of the year for a reason, and they all celebrate it with light. And it happens to be the darkest time on the planet, and they celebrate with the light. Whether it is Hanukkah or Diwali or the various lights that we see celebrating the Christ Mass, the Christmas time, whether it's Kwanzaa or the fire ceremonies of the indigenous cultures when the sky would darken and the hearts would open and the truth would run through the breath of every person in the gathering. It is an interesting time that we are in culturally, that we feel that we're seated in some darkness, seated in some crazy times. And I want to assure you before we end this evening that this is our time. It's our moment to shine. It is our moment to come forth as the light that we are and to bring that onto the canvas that is made available to us. And these are the kind of thoughts that were pouring through my mind on the plane. I was thinking, what if it had already happened? What if we stopped talking about one day? One day it will come together and I'm going to have it all. I'm going to set this intention and one day I'm going to reach that. And I had the wonderful honor and the great, great gift of awakening to my own God presence about 18 years ago. And I will tell you, there was nothing missing and there was nothing wrong and there was nothing broken. There was nowhere to go and nothing to accomplish and nothing to achieve because it was all here right now. And I was awake to myself beyond space and time, and I knew that every single one of you is exactly me. I knew that every single one of us were rays of light of a great sun shining, and that we come here to this dimension to express ourselves as the light. And yet we come here and we land and we splat and we disperse and we forget that that is who we are. And we start looking for the light and we look outwardly to find it in whatever, in all ways that we can, and we seek. And it isn't until we surrender. Sometimes we surrender the seeking itself and we fall back into our own hearts and we drop deeply into our own cores and we recognize that there's something right here, right now, just here for me, that if I allow myself to experience it, it feels better than the dispersed splat that I've been living in. And as I allow that to be good enough, something beautiful births. So I'll be walking you through a context for that we can all gather from the splat where our minds go one way and our hearts go another and our breath goes another and the spirit is just hanging out with one toe in the river trying to decide if this is actually a safe place to come in and live. Come on in, the water is fine. When you recognize that you are made for this. You are made of God's stuff. So I was sitting on the plane and wanting to come and share and celebrate Bruce and the birthing again of the next phase of Bruce's creativity, which I know will spark the interest and spark the hearts and the creative essence of anyone who listens and comes into the sphere. And I knew that you were coming for that and for an acknowledgement of the solstice and this idea of beautiful darkness. And so things just started coming out of my thumbs into my phone. So I'd like to just share a little bit of that with you. Okay? Are we still tracking? You good? All right. So as if we had gathered today and are just reminiscing, this is how it was. It was already accomplished for you when I was thinking about how to be here and how to play with you this evening. It was already done. And we were simply gathering, saying things like, remember when? Remember the days when we thought that logic was all that there was and that this rational mind was the be-all, end-all. And we didn't realize that it was here just to steward the truth of who we are. Remember when inventing grudges to hold on to was the only way that we could feel who we are, a sense of self, and it was defined by what we rejected and marched against. You remember those days when we were so primitive that we marched against things? And prior to recognizing that we, as was modeled for us years ago, that Mother Teresa would never march against war, but she would march for peace every day. And as we allowed that kind of unifying principle to rise up in us, we started to recognize it was time to perceive life a little differently. It was time to allow ourselves to be exactly as that, to be that which we were seeking to experience. And so, remember when the one-upsmanship was still cool? Remember that? When like having it worse than anybody else was the cool thing, or having it better than anybody else was the cool thing. And always being right was what it took for us to still the mind enough to pretend that life was good. You know, thank God those days are gone. You know, thank the oneness that finally resurfaced enough that we caught one breath riding this wave of grace, and we feel into what is actually real. That oneness that is us. Remember when you didn't know how rich you were as you accepted the crumbs from the leftovers of others' beliefs? Remember those days? That was kind of painful. Or the days when you thought you were the subtotal of a limited equation set up by your own genetic inheritance. You know what science is showing us now? It is showing us that you are made of God's stuff. That your genetic inheritance doesn't determine the outcome of your life experience. It does not determine the expression that your cells reveal. That your environment, meaning the thoughts that you think and the things that you believe and what you allow to be released from inside of your heart, ultimately will determine whether you get sick or whether you're well, whether you are strong in the world or whether you are reserved. It is your own creation that is happening. And so, as we begin to accept these kinds of things, we begin to step into our true power like we never have before. And we begin to not believe in disease anymore. We begin to recognize that we can generate an environment, a reality, where there is harmony, where there is flow. Because we are made for this. We are made for the divine to embody. We are made to bring heaven to earth. We are made of that, and yet we constantly seek it. We seek the divine, and yet it resides behind your eyes. Can you follow what I'm saying? Can you feel the truth in this? There is something waiting for you to ignite it, and we are seated at a time of the year that is most profoundly supportive of that very thing awakening in you now. And so, let's see. Remember the days before we were reminded with enough evidence to accept that we as humans innately possess the power to generate entire realities and step into them as if they are real. And instead of simply playing with our creative power, we strived to survive those very circumstances that we, as the soulful being that we are, requested before we came. We requested it for our own soul's refinement. So when I travel and speak and teach the workshops that I do about self-healing and about illumination, and most importantly about embodiment to that which we awaken to, I have the great joy of sharing with people that yes, we have created the very life experiences. We have asked for them. We have requested them, because those are the sets of circumstances that it would require to refine us, to polish us as the big beings that we are. So if there have been circumstances in your life that have been seemingly insurmountable, circumstances that caused a great pause in your life, like some of the story that Bruce has shared with us this evening of his own life experience, that at some level before arriving in this dimension, at the soulful level, he requested these experiences so that there could be a quickening, a drawing back from the splat, that the mind and the body and the breath would have to come home again to gather the resources potent enough to allow for the piercing of the veil of the illusion that we are less than God's stuff. And so if the circumstances have seemed bigger than thou, I would invite you to pause and to recognize that there is no mistake. There is no simple happenstance. There is no random act that is happening. There is a divine flow that is flowing through your life experience by grand design, by divine design. And it is flowing in accordance with your willingness and your readiness to awaken to the true power of who you are, what you are made of, without exception. If it has seemed bigger than what you could handle, I oftentimes find myself sharing that big beings take on really big projects. And they get started right away. So if you landed in an environment leaving you to feel like, I must have landed in the wrong place, I don't know these people, I don't relate to them. If that thought or feeling, experience ever passed through your life, there was a reason for that. And the reason was this: you were here to awaken to a greater degree than your immediate surroundings. You were here to awaken as the evolutionary impulse, that which is evolving you beyond your immediate environment. You follow? So if we were gathered in a community that was recognizing that this was the truth and that we were accepting this, we would also be saying things like, and remember when we realized that we are the healer and the healed, and we stopped looking out there for some erratic solution du jour? Remember that? Remember the day that we stopped searching out there for some solution to solve our problem because we recognized that actually, better than the fact that we could solve the problem ourselves, we awakened to the greater truth that there is no problem. It's not a problem. We finally built enough circuits to perceive the reality that is upon us in a manner to perceive it as constantly nudging us toward our greatness, constantly showing and revealing to us that if the support wasn't there, it was because you didn't need it. And if it had shown up on a silver platter, you might never have realized what you were made of. It might never had occurred to you. It might have gone untapped, unseen. Because the Creator wants to create. You came here to awaken to that. You are made of creative essence to the degree that you are here wanting to simply reveal yourself. And as that begins to take root, and you begin to breathe life into that, you recognize that every single thing has only ever been in support of you humbly accepting your greatness. Capiche? Okay, so let me see if I have anything else here. I know it goes on, but I'm better if I just set this down out of my hands here. But remember when we were afraid of the dark, and this is completely relevant to our solstice conversation. Remember when we were afraid of the dark? Remember when we were afraid of the dark, and before we realized that that was the void, that actually wasn't a void at all, but rather was the infinite smorgasbord that we would draw from when we dream and imagine and create? You remember that when you realized that? Maybe some of these things are lingering and we haven't quite realized them yet. So I'm here to just kind of remind you that we have this capacity to be seated in a place that had already arrived. How many of you feel like something is about to open up and to break through and to really change and transform in your lives? You know, I ask this question and I always see the audience raises their hands. And I want you to understand this. The reason it feels like something is about to happen is because we don't have the circuitry in place to perceive that it has already happened. Yeah. Okay? So what I'm about in this world is helping people to build the circuits for that to occur. So we're going to do some of that this evening. The reason that we don't know God is because we don't have the circuitry to be able to perceive that God is right here. The reason that we don't know heaven and that we think that it is someplace other than where we sit is because we don't have the circuits in place to perceive that it is here now. It is a circuitry issue, and that is it. And so when I say circuitry, I mean your body's ability, your mind's ability to perceive the very truth that is happening through you and around you and because of you. And as we begin to pull those things together and build the circuitry for perceiving such, everything changes. It seems like the people around you become nicer. It seems like opportunities start showing up and revealing. But because we are gathered here as a community of people that know this, we simply say, you remember when we made it so hard? You remember when we used to always be addicted to what was wrong and to what wasn't working? Do you remember when we had become even dependent upon the chemicals in our body that were released every time we got angry, frustrated, upset, or worried? Do you remember when we used to use that as a fix, trying to feel some false sense of vitality or oomph? You remember when we used to do that? It's my invitation to us on this solstice that we use this darkest time to be the most beautiful time in our lives. What is it that we will create moving forward from this? I think I had one more thing in here about that, and that is, remember when we, through that celebrating of the solstice, remember when we thought that celebrating the solstice was just some interesting planetary axis-tilted holiday, right? That just gave you a bunch of dark days in a row to mark the shortest day of the year. That was long before we remembered that was the moment each year when our own exalted spirit expresses itself most fully, and we naturally embrace our own sleepfulness and its inherent abundance of answers, unnamed, untouched, and previously unseen. This is the day the new sun rises and brings the new beginning like no other. This is the day that the new sun rises. After the solstice, that there is a new world rising, a new you rising. And so our gathering here this evening in touch with the possibility that it is actually already here, the golden age, the new earth, that which we have been seeking, and that it's simply a matter of our ability to perceive it, that perhaps on this solstice we will awaken, realizing that, recognizing it, choosing our words in accordance with that, choosing our projects in accordance with that, choosing our thoughts in accordance with supporting that which we have already been aware of, that which has always been here. And so what I want to speak to you about is your own internal bridging of the worlds. You know, the solstice is the shortest day of the year. It is the longest night of the year. And what it actually holds for you is the most inward reflection without interruption. You know, that's what the solstice is. It's when the darkness is happening in the sky, it is representing your own unconscious. And when we can allow your unconscious to have the light of your attention, it begins to rise and birth some aspect of you haven't been in touch with prior to this moment. And so there is, because of the planetary alignment, a particular light that falls upon the planet at this time, these holy days that every indigenous culture has been celebrating since the beginning of time. There is a particular light that falls upon the planet that allows you to awaken inside your own highest consciousness that no other time of the year supports equally. When we speak about a Christed being or a Buddha being, and we hear that the Buddha's teaching would be that anyone could be Buddha, and we hear in the minglings of whispers and around the corners that there was more than one Christed being. In fact, there were communities that practiced ascension and descension, that practiced raising the vibration of their own bodies and their own consciousness to the point that they could perceive what I'm speaking of this evening. We hear these whispers and we wonder, could it be true? And dare I think in these ways because of how we've been trained culturally? And I just want to invite you in the spirit of the solstice to allow some deeper, some greater possibility to be running true through you than what we may have been taught. And at no begrudgedness to those that were teaching, because it's part of divine design that we forget the truth of who we are so that we can remember the truth of who we are. There is a planetary circulation, a cycling, an orbiting that is happening that moves 25,000 years at a time. And as we round the bend and come closer to source and come closer to a deeper alignment, we start remembering things that were being suppressed just by design for so long. And in those moments, you start to have an inspiration. You start to have an aha, a wondering. You start to hear something that catches your ear, that serves you beyond what your cultural training might have been, but you know there's something deeply true in what's being said. You feel it in your cells that something is ready to awaken. And as we build the circuits for that awakening to be made easy, it happens regardless of what your beliefs have been. It happens right underneath the story of your life. Something rises again, something creative generates itself, and all of a sudden is moving your life. We have this capacity. We're made for this. And yet, we haven't been taught about it. We haven't been taught how to steward it. We haven't been taught how to facilitate it, how to magnify it. And what I would love to share with you about the solstice is the solstice provides for you the opportunity to drop deeply into the core and let the truth of you rise, to let the soul have a life, to let the soul begin to speak, to let the soul go to lunch, to let the soul have relationships, to let the true spirit essence of you be the one that is living your life, not something that you listen to occasionally that guides you. Start to pay attention to if you're listening to spirit or if you're speaking as spirit. Start to pay attention to if you're holding yourself separate from the infinite possibilities, or if you're behaving, if you're breathing, if you're actioning as though it was already true. If we were gathered here as a group of people that had recognized this, we would be in complete celebration for the darkness in the sky at this moment. We would be in complete celebration for it gives us more time to access the darkness, to lean in, and to be the light that we are, that is here to shine our attention on the next possible creation that could come up and out to this planet through us, that could reveal because we said yes in a way that we hadn't let ourselves before. And we'd be saying, remember when we used to suffer so long waiting for things to get better. Instead, we would be here breathing up and down the central core of our body, breathing with enough power and focus and heartfelt intensity that we were piercing the veils that have kept us from being able to perceive such a world. We would be here in celebration of the unknown instead of hiding from it or being afraid of it. When someone said, your answers are within you, and you look within and you think, oh great, I can't see a thing. I had this question, they told me the answer was within. I look inside, I don't see a thing. Now I'm double duped. We're here to shift the fact that the unknown is your playground. We're here to awaken to the fact that you are creator. You're not just trying to create a better way of responding to something someone else created. You're here to be generative. You're here to engage your magnificence. And the planet is simply your playground to do so. So when you think of the solstice, what has been in your awareness about the solstice? What has been in your idea of the importance of this time of year? What I know is that it is an invitation for you to awaken to your own Buddhic consciousness, your own Christed consciousness. It is available and accessible to everyone. I had an opening before I even knew that openings were a thing to shoot for. Thank goodness, because if I'd have known it was a goal, I'd have probably kept myself from ever achieving it. You follow? I was simply sitting in a meditation that I had only recently begun to participate in. It was by divine design in a stressed out world of trying to live the right life the right way and do all that I could to make it work, I was so exhausted of my perfectionistic disposition that I found myself attracted to meditation. So I sat down in a meditation, and in the midst of that meditation, I had an opening occur that I shot into the most brilliant, bright light that I had ever imagined seeing. It was 10 times brighter than the brightest day in the desert that I had ever experienced. I could see 360 degrees around me in a brilliant light so bright. I knew I was a part of that light, but I had never imagined experiencing anything like that. I could see the earth beneath me about the size of a marble, and I was embedded into it up to what would have been my knees. But I wasn't in a body. I was me. I had free will. I could choose to look this way or that way. But what was happening was I recognized that I was a ray of light, and I was breathing this brilliant light through this body into this earth that was so far beneath me. It was planes and dimensions away, but I knew that this is what we are. We are individual rays of consciousness of the one mind, the one light, and we are coming here to experience ourselves as creator. We're coming here to do exactly that. And with every breath that I took in that state, I could feel and sense light coming into the frequency that we call love. And I knew that with every breath that we take, we breathe love to the planet without trying. It's simply happening automatically. There was nothing missing. There was nothing broken. There was nothing wrong. There was nowhere to go and nothing to prove and nothing to become. I had always been there, and I knew I would always be that, and that I was having individual experiences, and this is who we are. This is what we are. This is what is happening. The solstice is about providing the most inward time, and Mother Nature provides that for us every year. And if this year we would happen to hook in to collaborating with that instead of holding ourselves as separate from it, we might just allow enough circuits to fall into place as nature would have it to be able to perceive a better world than the one that we thought we were living in just moments ago. It changes in an instant because we're perceiving differently. It changes in an instant because we have ignited circuits that we are made of. We have ignited them to now be animated, to now be flowing the flow of life force through them. And we're utilizing them the way that they were built to be used. So I've been in healthcare for 30 some years, 40 closer years, okay? And I've had the opportunity of working with people that have had chronic degenerative diagnoses, people that were given months to live, weeks to live. I have had the opportunity of working with people who were scheduled for surgeries the next week, that never had to have those surgeries, and worked with people who were given months to live that are here telling their stories 15 years later because they hooked up the circuitry that I'm talking about. I personally was raised in an environment where natural health care was the only health care that I ever had. I've never gone to the doctor and gotten a prescription for an antibiotic. So Bruce and I are kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that. And we're holding the space for all of it because in the face of all of that, infinite possibility exists. And what I know is possible for us is that we could build the circuitry to perceive a world that isn't broken. Even when crazy things get stated and crazier things are utilized as the retaliation to the crazy things that are stated, and our culture is steeped in that right now, what I know is that is fertile practice ground for you. It is fertile practice ground for you to choose. What vibrational frequency do you stand for in the face of that? What is the vibration that is emanating off of you? Is it pulling you off core and into the drama and the turbulence at the surface of life? Because that, my friends, is what has been happening on this planet since the beginning. Since the beginning of the study of consciousness, that has been being recorded, reported, and lived. It has been the challenge before humanity, and this is not new. These times are not new, and they're not bigger than you. They're simply what you're ready to use as practice ground to see if you can be the absolute stabilizing presence in the face of such a wobble. Because when we land and we splat and we disperse, there's a life that gets created out there in that dispersal. And that's the illusionary world that is full of pain and full of duality. And all we have to do is start to pull ourselves back home, back into the core of our being, and start to breathe some life into the essence of who we truly are, which resides at that deep core space. And what begins to happen is the circuits that we've been running here out in this protective personality or this performing personality, those circuits start to soothe. They start to calm down as something else deeper inside of you starts to awaken and starts to robustly rise to its destiny. You're here to awaken to the illusion. You're here to awaken to the truth of who you are, and the outer world is a reflection of your own consciousness. May you leave from this solstice at this time of this year with an understanding that every relationship you are in is a reflection of your own consciousness and that which is not yet conscious. Your conscious and your subconscious are in relationship with each other. And if you're in a relationship with another individual, they represent your subconscious. You represent your consciousness in that relationship. So all of a sudden, the things that they're doing start to become a little more tolerable if they are a reflection of a part of you, right? If the people that you're in relationship with are reflecting back to you the amount of circuits that you have in place, everything changes if we utilize it to our advantage. You follow what I'm saying? There is no enemy. There is no problem. And the solstice is about you awakening to that deep truth within you. At this time of year, we are invited to go inward. We are invited to drop in, to come out of the destabilized trauma of the outer world and to awaken at a deeper core level within. And as we do that, we begin anew. We are at a time where the striving has happened through the year. We've made the efforts of a new project. We've gone through the summer of building the fruition of all of that. We've gone through the fall and the bounty of harvesting all of our good efforts. And right now, we're moving into the void. The void in your life, if you feel like you don't know what to do next, or you don't feel like you know who you are, or you don't maybe know what the times are creating. Right now is the time for you to come deeply into your own heart space and to anchor yourself and root yourself in a manner that allows you to create, to bring it, to be the one, to be the solution. And so we have the opportunity to gather together this evening with a little practice doing that. Does that work? Everybody still awake? Are we good? All right. So I'd like for you to just take a moment and bring your attention into your core. Just bring your attention into your core. And then while you sit there, just notice the distinction between that and now throw all of your energy off your core to the front of the room. Just throw all of your energy here. Just disempower, throw your energy out, empty yourself and throw it here. Okay? Now, witness yourself pulling it back onto self. Okay? Now, experience yourself throwing it back onto me. And allow this to be a recognition of how hard you try, how much you care, how much you love. You throw all your love onto something. Now, pull it back onto the self. Come back onto subject. And if you will take a breath from above your head and breathe right down through the center of your head, the center of your brain, through the center of your throat, into your heart and into your belly, through a central channel there, and then exhale down through your belly, down through the low abdomen, down through the tip of the spine, you will begin to connect with a power greater than this horizontal world. The solstice is about going into the darkness, embracing the darkness, So the invitation now is to come deeply into the core of your being. There is an ancient Sanskrit practice called Mula Bandha, which means root lock, which means you're going to tether your consciousness deep in the core of your body, deep at the root of your spine, and you're going to stabilize yourself there. Take a big belly breath, stabilized at the root of your spine. Now, Mula Bandha is constricting all the muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl. Just constrict those muscles and lift them up toward your heart. As you lift them up toward your heart and you constrict those muscles and you lift them toward your heart rolls open. So squeeze the backside of the heart. Squeeze it just enough to hug it. Squeeze it just enough to anchor your awareness there, to anchor the consciousness in this place. And now constrict your throat just a tiny bit. Just constrict your throat enough that you can feel the vibration of your own breath breathing through this area, that you can hear it, that you can feel that vibration in the body. And now roll your eyes up gently, that you could feel the tension behind your eyes. And there is a line of connection from above your head, down through this tension behind your eyes in the center of the brain, down through the throat, down through the heart space, down through the belly, and exhale down into the earth. And as you do this, know you are a ray of light coming in to the darkness for the purpose of revealing your magnificence. Now, take a deep breath in, up from the earth, up through this Mula Bandha, this root lock. Breathe up into the belly. Squeeze the back of the heart, open the front of your heart, constrict the throat just enough that you can feel your own breath, and move up, breathing upward into the heart space, and exhale through the throat, rolling your eyes again and feeling the tension behind the eyes, and exhaling up and out the top of your head. Inhaling and exhaling through your nose, inhaling and exhaling, and take a deep breath in from overhead. Make this breath a cosmic breath. Make this breath come from the cosmos. Make it come from the stars. Make it fall down into this toric field flow that you are. Allow that energy to be drawn down into the system, illuminating inside the brain. Inhale through the throat. Squeeze the back of the throat. Squeeze the back of the heart. And then exhale down through the belly and into the earth through this Mula Bandha, this root lock. And once more, take a deep breath in from deep within the mother's core, the heart of Mother Earth. Allow this bridge of heaven-earth that you are reminding yourself that you be. Allow this bridge to be the truth of you. There is no heaven and earth. It's all right here, heaven, earth. It is all right here, right now. Take a breath up from the earth into the belly. Squeeze the back of your heart. Constrict the throat just enough that you can feel yourself breathing your way through there. As you become the breath, the spirit being that you are, exhale yourself out from the tension behind the eyes and out through the crown of the head. For this time we remember, I am the Spirit. I am the oneness coming forth in the expansion of consciousness, participating as that here on the frontier of humanity awakening to its divinity. I am the breath. This time you dive down through the crown chakra, make your way down from behind the eyes into the throat area. You breathe your way down into the heart space. Let the body at the core squeeze you back and let you know it's on to you. The mind and the body and the breath finally working together in the way, in the fashion that they are supposed to. You make your way down into the belly. And a big belly breath. Make the belly big on this inhale. As you make your way down into that cauldron of wisdom that Mother Earth has been holding forever, waiting for you to bring the light. Exhale your way through Mula Bandha and into the earth. You chose to come to the third dimension and take a body. As you embody fully, you fulfill your destiny. We are not in search of spirit. Our destiny is to become free, being human. We are that which we have been seeking. And isn't it nice to remember that? Take a deep breath in as you have hit the earth and rise up again, this time as the soulful self. This time, breathe your way up through this Mula Bandha. Breathe your way up through the belly. Make your way up to the heart, knowing that if I can come to love, I can lead. If I can tap the vibrational frequency of love, I can be actioning as the universal solvent here in this dimension. Exhale your way up through the throat. Make your way up through the manifestor. Exhale yourself up through the center of the brain where creatorship resides. Exhale out through the crown in the full celebration of the darkness rising again to the light. For it is in this state, in this deeply seated central channel, it is in this place I have the power to change my reality. When the conscious mind focuses on something, the tiniest particle of the physical world cannot help but concede. It follows your thought. The photons arrange themselves in accordance with your deep, truly heartfelt desire. They arrange in accordance with what you know is possible. What would you have be so? In this moment, what is the vibration on this planet that you choose? Take a deep breath in from overhead. Become the breath coming down into the body, bringing this pure spirit essence to earth. Your body is the earthly version of you. If it is happening and awake in the body, it will manifest in your life. Notice if there is an area of the body that feels constricted. Notice if there is an area in the body that feels without breath. Squeeze it back. Let it know contact has been made. It's been trying to anchor you and help you learn to build circuits in this area. Squeeze it back and start to breathe that area through this central channel as we sit. Include it in, melt it in, merge it in with the rest of what is flowing up and down through this body now. And take a deep breath in. And exhale into the earth. The soul begins to rise with an intention set. Gently breathe your way up through the body, relaxing the body at the core now, but stay deep in this core space. See if there is another area of the body that calls your attention. Squeeze it back. Let it know there is finally collaboration between mind and body and breath. Let the body translate to the mind what the soul is trying to say. For the soul speaks to the body, and the body speaks to the mind. And now, because we remember, the mind is paying attention. Squeeze it back. Let it know that the deepest sincerity is present here at the pinnacle moment of our year, that the holy days are upon us. The wholesome, the holism is possible now, like no other time of the year. This time, I don't just dream, I don't just wish, I become. Feel it in the physical body, squeeze it, and let it know, mind and body and breath have united, have merged. The unity consciousness that we seek is revealed in this moment. Unity between people cannot happen until unity within is seated. And so we rise. As you breathe up through this body, with a gentle mula bandha engaged, a gentle squeezing of the heart space, breathe into the core of the body. Roll the eyes up. Constrict the throat just enough that you can feel yourself as you pass through. And gently, slowly, tenderly, with reverie, with a cherished tenderness of the holiest moment of the year. What if my attention in this holy fashion is all that is required to build the circuits for manifesting that which has not yet come to be? Step through the threshold, the one that you have felt so many times you're about to step through. Experience yourself having just stepped through it. Take a deep breath in from overhead. There's an energy center 2 feet above your head. It is considered the North Star. Take a breath from your North Star down into the body. Squeeze the core of the body. Give it a place to land. This high frequency energy version of you, so high it can't reside inside the physical being. Allow the subtle self to guide these higher frequencies into your own physiology. Breathe them in. Let it feel good. And know, this is my time. It is already done. But we have gathered here to remember what it felt like to step through the threshold. And exhale your way down into the earth. And a deep breath in and exhale. And a deep breath in and exhale. And a deep, deep breath in from overhead. Breathe it down through the body. Feel you traverse down through the central channel. And exhale. Reach up above your head with your conscious concentration. Reach up your arms. Allow this channel to be accentuated. There is a chalice that you are, gathering high frequency light that pours down through this body. Mula bandha, and squeeze the heart, and roll the eyes, and squeeze the throat just enough that you can feel. Deep breath in. Drink in the dark light. And exhale down through the body. It is infinite possibility. Take a deep breath in from the center of the earth. And as you exhale, exhale up and out the crown again. As you allow this channel to be accentuated, be the bridge between heaven and earth. Be the one that has stepped through this threshold. And a deep breath in. Gently bringing the hands back down by your side. Exhale. What does it feel like in the body to remember? What does it feel like in the body to have mind and body and breath gathered back together again, synchronized in the infinite possibility that Creator walks as? The solstice. On the eve of the solstice, we are greatly blessed to be aware as we go to bed this evening and we gather again these 4 anchor points and breathe up and down through this channel. Don't limit yourself to setting a goal or having a vision. Simply reveal your magnificence. Allow the truth of you to be here fully integrated and revealing. What happens under those circumstances is better than what the mind would have come up with. The miraculous happens beyond logic. The miraculous happens beyond what we anticipate. For us to live in the miraculous as the spirit creator being that we are, we simply have to feel our way into our own divinity. When the thinking mind is so busy trying to create a better world, pull your energy back onto subject. You're so much more powerful there. You remain open to everyone around you. Your energy field flows more robustly and more profoundly. It has a clarifying and stabilizing effect on everything around it. And we become the ray of light again. We came to this dimension to explore, to create, and to awaken to the truth of who we are. When the sacred light falls upon the planet as it does in this moment, and tomorrow, just before noon, its most potent point, be clear in your intention. Your intention of the mind is simply to reveal the beauty of the soul. You are the soul. You have a body, and you have a mind. You are the one that you have been seeking. Celebrate that as we celebrate the solstice. Many, many blessings to you all. It's been a great joy to share some time with you. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Gary, for a most exquisite evening. Blessings to you all. Yeah. Namaste.